here for today with a session with Luis Vázquez, who has been a friend, mentor for many years, and I thought he'd be a great addition to have on the podcast. Luis, thank you for joining me here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
I think you have a great story that a lot of the audience would benefit from listening to, and I thought, what better way than to actually do this session with you. So, Luis, one thing I want to start with is telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, your story. Uh, you growing up and then becoming an entrepreneur in just overall terms.
Have been always working in energy business. My father was a big officer of the Mexican company in Mexico since 1938 when it was expropriated by the government. So I've been involved in there, and then I have a chemical background. You know, I started 1 year in Mexico and 4 years in Toronto. In Toronto, exactly where you are now. And then,
Exactly.
but I started, I first I was an employee. Um, I used to sell drilling fluids, and I used to have customers in Canada. I used to go to Edmonton. I used to go to Calgary, to try to sell Mexican Mexican products for the drilling industry. And then at one time I decided to form a company. And I talked to my brother and a cousin of mine, and we have my brother is a mechanical engineer. I'm a chemical, and what happened is we saw an opportunity to form a diving company. In 1973, we formed a diving company. At that time, the work in Mexico was very minimal. We used to have maybe five divers, and my cousin that was the sixth. And that's 1973, and then something happened in the Mexican part, and instead of having say six divers in 1979, we used to be the second largest diving company in the world. We
Wow.
used to have 500 divers. 500 divers. What we did, we opened a school in Mexico, and we started training the Mexican. We used to hire people in Canada, in France, in Norway, and brought it to Mexico. And then we had a school in a place called Tuxpan. It's in the Gulf of Mexico, and we start training Mexican divers. So by 1979, we used to have 500 Mexican divers, and we were the second largest diving company. And we were very young. At that time, my brother, myself, and my cousin were very young. And then instead of keep going on the diving, having a company in the diving, we start diversifying. We have diversified, and what we did is we started, buying at one time in 1987, we acquired an LDC, natural gas business. It was in Monterrey. Monterrey is a big city in Mexico. Is the most industrialized city in Mexico, in Mexico, and the company that we bought in 19 the reason that Monterrey is very industrialized is because the natural gas arrived in Mexico in Monterrey in 1930. In 1930 is when the natural gas arrived in Mexico. A company in the States, they brought it over by pipeline, and we had the opportunity or the chance or looking for something to do, and we bought the company. We bought the company. The it's called Compañía Mexicana de Gas, and it has about 97, almost 100 years old. You know, that's a company that they already operate from for a long time ago. And another thing, we started looking for another opportunities. We have another company, and we joint venture with a company, a French company called CGG, is Compañía General de Geophysics, and you know became 51-49. 51 was Diavaz, and 49 was the French, and we started working in Mexico, and we had, you know, we sold a company in seven or 8 years later. For it was a very good business, and we sold it, and that's how we start diversifying a little bit of things like that. So we have always been very, we always try to do things better, a little bit better, and then the company, and and then we had the diving, is still one of the main companies in Diavaz. We still have, right now, instead of having 500 divers, I think we have maybe 160 or 150 or something like that. And we operate from boats that are called DP, dynamic positioning. They don't have anchors. They do by computers, and we put them in we can put it in outside of your house, and it's going to stay there even with the currents going back and forth.
Oh, interesting.
And then those we have those operations. We have those operations at that. We do hyperbaric diving. We're a very large. We're still a very large diving company. I still think that have the majority of the diving in Mexico. Maybe not 100%, but maybe 60% of that is owned by our company. And what else can I tell you? I was very, at one time I was interviewed, and I became a, 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 I became, in Canada. I used to be in charge. ¿Cómo se llama?
Advisor,
Board member.
board member.
I was a
Okay.
board member of a company in Canada called TransAlta, out of Calgary.
Yes,
You
yes.
know, and I was there for nine years until they kicked me out. I was very lucky. I used to go to Calgary every 4 or 5 months. I enjoyed it very much, and then that was the end of that part of that things. And then I became, friends with, through that transaction, with a lot of people that I know, that I work with now. Something in Alexa, I think the president, he used to be the chairman of the board of Transalta. So I have, through that, I and then I was an investor in one of the when a company called Seven Generations became. It was a very successful company that we that we formed about 6 or 7 years, no more, 15 years ago. We gas, we made a lot of money, we sold it, and we're very happy about that. So it was another part of Canada. So for me, Canada and Mexico are exactly the same. If you tell me if I'm Canadian or American or Mexican, I would say 90% would be Mexican, 10% would be Canadian. I still have a three children, Canadians, and three grandchilds that Canadians that they live in Canada.
Yeah.
So that's more or less, Gary, what I have done for the last. I started working in the industry, in the energy industry in in 71.
97. Yeah.
I graduated in 1971 and I came to Mexico and I started drilling. I started selling products for the gas industry, for the drilling industry,
Yeah, that's right.
and that was, I enjoy very much, and I still have we own companies that we have a company in Grupo Diavaz that is a drilling company. We have things like that are always part of the drilling, something that I learned when I was a kid or when I was young, and that's more or less what I have done. And now what I do is that you know I'm still the chairman of the Avaz. The things that we do in the Avaz is in the energy business. We're one of the most important business energy business in Mexico. We're very good at it. We have a very good reputation, and it's one of the things that I know that the reputation really works. And when you get old, and you're old like me, then you know that the reputation, having a good reputation, is a very valuable, valuable
And
asset that you would have.
and I really appreciate that background. I think it will really resonate with the audience because for many of them that don't know you, that's really paints the picture of a successful entrepreneur. One question for you: growing up, who do you had the biggest impact on you, and as a person or on your career? Who would you say is if you were to pick one person?
My father, my father, he was a, he always worked for Pemex, which is the oil company of Mexico. He worked, he worked since the Pemex was in the industry, the drill, the a petroleum company was nationalized in 1938, and my father was one of the pioneers when they acquired the Mexican government acquired the company mainly from the English and from the Americans. So and then when at the beginning of my first year of primary school, I was working in a refinery, which is in Tampico, which I was born in Tampico in 1947. And the and I work and I used to live at the refinery at the refinery. My view is one of the tanks of gas of oil. So I will look at one, and that would be the gas, the petroleum that was acquired, to refine in the Pemex. So for me, it was very good. And then I became, then so I admire him a lot. He was very honest. When we grow up and we start being a contractor or for Pemex and things, uh, his honesty was very, very helpful for us. Everybody says they are the sons of Oscar Vasquez. They're good guys because my father was he was a very my father became the general manager of all the refineries in Mexico, and at the end he became the general manager of administration. So from the refineries, he became the, the general manager of administration, and that's how when he retired, he was he started in the refinery and he finished in the in the in the administration. He was, very powerful man, very honest, and that's one of the things that it. And then I had the opportunities always to look for new things to do.
For sure.
Even though we have a company called Diavaz, I start looking for doing something else, and that's why we bought the Mexican gas, the distribution of natural gas in Monterrey, because we were looking for new opportunities. What we did, we did, uh, you know, we went with the French to look about the seismic and to learn a little bit about seismic, and always been, always trying to do something different. And then when I remember meeting you one time in the Four Seasons in
Toronto.
in the Four Seasons in in Toronto,
Yes, yes,
that's how we met that time, and then we became, besides being a friend, now we're partners,
exactly.
and I partners, and I'm very proud to be first your friend and then be a partner of Alexa.
And
The-
that was for the audience. That breakfast at Four Seasons was
so
in the fall of 2017. So that's
yes,
it's time, and time flies. That's for sure.
I know.
And Luis, I will get back to the business side of things
Sure.
again, but one thing that is always of interest to the audience is what do people do for fun? What are things that they enjoy? And you've had always a very diverse background of things you like doing, from charreria, which we can
Yeah.
explain a bit more to what it is, to riding motorcycles in the Alps. So
Sure.
what does Luis Vasquez enjoy to do for fun?
But I became at the beginning, playing golf. I used to play golf more often than I do now. And then I learned about the charreria. The charreria is the Mexican sport. Is the charreria is you go to a place and you compete. Four teams compete. Charreria is like you have the ones in Calgary,
Like
the
rodeo?
like a rodeo,
Yeah,
but this but this but the charreria started, and then the rodeo is part of the charreria.
exactly.
So if you go back to where the el rodeo is, it started as a charreria, and it was in Mexico how it started, and then the Mexicans start doing it in Calgary and all those places, and then became a rodeo part of the charreria, which is not part of this. That, and then we have a competition. We have a competition every year. There are 2,000 teams in Mexico and in the United States. We have 2,000 teams, and we compete for every single year. We compete in one tournament, which is in November, and out of the 2,000, 120 go, and that's the final. And there are the final, you compete and you become the champion. In the teams that I have worked, that I have uh, been with, we have been champions twice, twice out of that. So so I have done that very good. And another thing I did, I I I had a always had a motorcycle. I started with a BM, I started with BMW. I started with that, and then became too fast, and then I was getting too old. So I decided to change it to the Harley Davidson. So I had a Harley Davidson in Mexico City, and I decided I had a condominium in a place in in Austria, which is called Kitzbühel. So I bought an apartment there, and then I bought my motorcycle there. So I used to keep the motorcycle in Europe, and I went to all Austria, Germany, all those things, and with my motorcycle, and the reason that I went, I changed the BMW because BMW was too danger because the speed that you go, fast is too fast, and the Harley Davidson is for people all like me. And then we had a tournament. We had a convention in Kitzbühel. There were 2,000 motorcycles from all over Europe that we were to Kitzbühel for 3 days, and there were a lot of from Norway, from everything, and one from Mexico, which was mine. So in the map it says from all over the world and one from Mexico. It was mine. That was mine. So that's what I did, and now what I still do now. I don't do I don't compete anymore. After the pandemia, I don't compete, but I still have my horses, and I still have my I still have my team. We have been not very lucky in the last 2 years, but we hope that this year we might do a little bit better. But if you ask about what we in my team in my is it well recognized out of 2,000 teams, which is in the States and Canada, in the States and Mexico, uh, uh, my team is recognized as a good team.
And Luis, I remember.
And another thing, I was at one time, I was the president of the Mexican Gas Association,
Yes,
and
yes.
and then at that time, I used to be board member of the American Gas Association. So I used to go to Washington 4 times a year for the American Gas Association, and I was a member. I was a board member of the of the American Gas Association, which at that time I met a lot of people that I still have related with now. Because I used to go to Washington a lot. We used to go to the conventions, and it was about the American Gas Association.
And
What
Luis,
else? Hmm?
Luis, I actually, and I will, I have a couple questions, business
Sure.
questions coming up, but I remember seeing you in 2018, just to finish off on the charreria, because I was very impressed. That was the first charreria event I went to. I saw Luis competing. This was 2018.
Yeah.
Uh, and what I saw Luis do, I mean, I can barely ride a horse without falling off. What I saw Luis do, I said, if he can pull that off, that's mastery of what he can do with a horse. And this was, I mean, less than 6 years ago at this point, and it's
Yes, and I
some,
used to do
I have some impressive videos of how quickly you could stop a horse and maneuver with it. So,
and maneuver with it. That's part of it, and I haven't. I'm going to start doing it again. But I'm not going to compete anymore.
no, but for fun.
I'm going to be just for fun.
Exactly.
I still have, well, if I tell you how many horses I have, I would not say. I mean, I have a lot.
No, but this is important. The passions are important because business.
Yeah.
We have business.
And I used to play golf a lot. I used to we used to play with Kent.
Yeah, that's
Kent
right.
is a very good golfer, and we played twice. He won one, and I won one.
And Ken Jesperson is the chair of the board of advisors at Alexa,
Yeah,
and
correct.
Louise and Kent were on the board of Transalta together, and
That's right.
they've they've been friends, colleagues, and business partners in many initiatives since then.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
Louise,
that's what I do, and still, I live in Mexico City, which is one of the largest cities in the world. I like to go to Canada. I go to Toronto. I haven't done it for the last since the pandemic. The pandemic has screwed us up because we have not. It's been difficult, but it's still I like I like to go to Canada very
And we like
often.
having you here, Luis. Luis, one of the things the audience is always curious about is entrepreneurship is a hard path.
Sure.
It's rewarding, it's fascinating, but it has its challenges. What are some of the lessons from your entrepreneurial journey to being such a successful entrepreneur? Because I mean, Diavaz now has thousands of employees, with the various divisions. If
Yes.
I recall correctly, maybe over 7,000 currently,
At
and
one time, right now we have 4,000.
4,000,
At
and
one
that's.
time, we-
But I mean, regardless, it's a huge number of employees, So, and but that is a great journey. And what are some of the learnings that you could share? What are some key lessons that you've learned during that journey?
what you have to do is, you build somebody like to have new things to do. It's always, first, you're taking a chance. That's the first thing that you have to do. You're an employee, you get a salary, you're happy with the salary, you get a new position, the salary goes up. But as an entrepreneur, you're risking everything. At one time, I remember, I remember going to. I remember one time I went to the border in Brownsville to bring some some equipment
That's right.
that I have to say, which we couldn't get the permit to bring them, so we have to smuggle it. So I went to see a guy in Brownsville, and and I said, what do you want to bring to Mexico? And I said, some, you know, some equipment for to install in a platform in near Tampico. How many are? And I said 40. He said, all right. So I'm going to charge you $2,000 to bring it to Mexico. So I said, all right. And I was waiting. And he said, when are you going to give me the money? And that was the only, that's the only money that I had. So I said, so I gave it to this guy, which I met 1 second ago, gave it to him. He said, perfect. We went to see the merchant side. He says, Jesus, you told me it was smaller. You told me there was smaller. It's a lot bigger than you told me. But it's a deal is a deal. And he brought the equipment to Tampico in a month. And at that time, that was all. I didn't have any money.
Of
You know,
course.
that was my own, and that was the only chance that we had to bring so we can work. If not the Diavaz, not, I don't know what would happen at that time. That's one of and the same thing at that time there was $2,000, I think. I don't know if it. I think it was about $2,000. But right now we go and we still do a contract. Right now, why not today? Today I signed a, a loan for I think it was $140,000 that we're going to lend. So we're risking $140 million. We have to do the contract. We have to get paid, and it will be profitable. So I'm still doing exactly the same thing I did for $2,000. But at that time I didn't have the $2,000. I still don't have 140. So it's
Well,
exactly the same thing. You have that, and you have that, and you do it. You try to do it because you are like that. And the same thing with, when I went to Seven Generations, I tried to make it happen. When I had the pleasure of meeting you, I said, let's have a company with with Gary. I think it's going to be we're going to have a good partner. But I never thought about how much money I'm going to make.
right.
I don't care about how much money I'm going to make. Maybe I'm going to make $1 million, or maybe I'm going to make $5,000, but I don't care about that. It's just the challenge of this idea, which I think is a good idea, to make it bigger. But I don't do it as a dollar. I don't care about the dollar.
Yeah.
If I do it as a dollar, I will never risk. When I go to Vegas, I never bet.
Right. Because the
I
chances
never
are so
bet.
low.
Eh? Yeah,
You don't win. It's
yeah.
so low. So,
So I don't do that. So what I do is when I did with you is I think it was a good idea. When I went with the seven generations, it was a good idea. And sometimes we have not been very successful, but I don't think
of course.
very small. But most of the time it has been, I take a chance, and that's how I have been doing this since 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 uh, since uh, since uh, since I started working.
And Luis, certainly taking chances in business is inevitable. But in the early days, when you started with five divers and then your cousin being six, going from that to 500, I imagine it was also a lot of hard work from the team
Sure.
and everything else.
Yes, it was. It was very hard work. It was very hard work. The decisions that we had to make, the technology that we had in Mexico was, the technology, it was in French and in the States. So we have to see. I remember at one time a company from the States who wanted to buy us. Another time we were a very small company, and I think they were going to give us $1 million. $1 million when you are 30 years old is a lot of money.
Yeah, it is a lot of money.
And then I said, why don't I sell it? Split with my brother, and that's it. And I said, no. I remember going to see them, talking to those guys, and the next morning I said, we're not selling. I wanted to stay and take the risk. I
And
could
what
have
gave you
tried.
that? What gave you that confidence, Luis, to say we should continue because we can do better?
I think we should do better. It's just, I think we're better. I think the company is still young. I think we have to have joint ventures with a lot of people. When we see an opportunity, we take the chance.
And
And then we have to
of
consolidate
course,
what we do. Mm. I
and
remember
Luis,
we didn't have lawyers. Now we have 5 lawyers.
of course,
You
and
know,
a very good legal team at that.
and a good legal team. So we always try to do. Uh, we always take a chance. We always take a chance, and I think that's part of me. You know, I I'm very I like to do things, and I use. So what else can I say? Hmm?
Luis, the oil and gas industry has its challenges. Just, I mean,
Yes.
looking at the price alone, oil prices will vary a lot. What would you say have been some of the big challenges you had to with the fluctuations that happen in energy, embargoes, etc.? What are
I remember one time we were bankrupt. We were bankrupt with it. You could not. It was very difficult to. The price of oil was lower than the one that we can extract it. So we really thought that is going to happen. And the price went very down, and then it went up, and we decided to do it. We had debt. We started doing things a little bit better. We and then and we survive. And in the energy, you go up. You are rich and you are poor. You are rich and you are poor, and you just have to be. You have to manage what you have to do.
when
What is going on?
and you
Hmm?
had the foresight to also diversify, so it wasn't just
Yes,
oil and gas, because
that's right.
that can also have its own challenges. But
Yeah.
if you have
One of
if you
one of
have
the biggest one of the biggest companies that we have in the group, we have companies. The, One of the biggest, the most stable company is the gas business. Where you use merchandise.
that's
We
right.
buy gas, we sell it. We buy gas, we sell it. and that's one of the nicest, is one of the best, a more stable company. We don't make as much money as we make doing some construction offshore, but if I said which one I would like to, at my age, the gas business is better than the taking risk every single day.
For sure, for sure. No, and it's a proven business in many ways versus
Yeah.
some of the other ones
Yeah,
are
the gas business in Mexico, is how you industrialize it.
exactly
In Mexico, in Mexico, we have 32 states. 22 have access to natural gas. The other ones don't have access to natural gas.
right.
Which ones are the industrialized cities, the industrialized states? The ones that have natural gas.
Of course.
So we still think that natural gas is when like you have in Canada or the states. Every state in Canada or state or in the provinces that you have in Canada are always have natural gas, and you develop from natural gas. Here, there are states that don't have natural gas.
Right.
They don't have. They are looking. Every governor is trying to look how to bring natural gas to the state to start developing the country, the land.
No, it's a very interesting journey and
Yeah, because it's something that you in Canada or in the States don't think about natural gas. The natural gas comes by.
right,
You never see a tank in
right.
Toronto, right in front of the Four Seasons, that delivers LPG.
That's right.
It's always by pipelines. Something that you cannot understand in Canada, that what is natural gas? Natural gas exists there. No, we have to bring it.
Well,
Like this.
it makes you appreciate having good infrastructure because it seems like it's everywhere, but it's being transported obviously. So,
That's right. Yeah. Every province has natural gas.
yeah, I think certainly there's a level that comes transported
Yeah.
anyway, but the infrastructure is
Is
been
there?
built to make that
Is there?
easy without having to have trucks with it, you know?
Is there? Yeah. Yeah, I think so. But that's one of the things, and another thing is the what we do for the maintenance. The maintenance of the platform. Every single it has to be done every single year.
For sure.
And then you have to have a good reputation. You have to perform well, and then you have a company like Mexico, like Diavaz, that is 50 years old.
That's right. And that's when you look to Canada for the financing, so that
That's
you
right.
can
That's right.
and you bring your two worlds together, Canada and Mexico.
Yes.
I really appreciate your time today. I think this has been a fascinating session and really fascinating episode for a lot of our listeners because you have such a unique story and in an industry that is that not a lot of people have experience in. So this is going to be unique from all the podcasts that we've done.
Let me tell you something about the gas industry. When
Please.
we bought the Mexicana de Gas, we bought it from the Murchisons. The Murchisons were the owners of the Dallas Cowboys.
We can say that you even have a tie now to the Dallas Cowboys.
Which I don't like.